Hey folks, John Boym here of the Let's Talk Beef podcast. Still hanging out in Minnesota. Well, not really hanging out, but anybody who's seen what's going on in the Midwest right now knows that how wet and cold it is. And I can tell you this: it's making it very difficult to get crops harvested this fall. So it's been a long, cold, wet fall, and everybody can't wait for it to get over. But needless to say, we are still in Minnesota working on some things and just keep kind of pushing our departure date back. But we have lots of stuff that we're trying to get done and just gotta roll with the punches, and we'll depart here at some point. But anyways, this week's podcast, it's actually the last one from the trip that we did to Georgia this past summer. We stopped by Certified Angus Beef in Wooster, Ohio, and I got the opportunity to sit down with Eric Blythe, who is actually a new employee. He's only been there for a little over a year at the time of the interview, but he's originally from Kansas and graduated from Kansas State. And kind of a funny story. He emailed them kind of on a whim thing, and they said, "Sure, let's set up an interview." And he went and interviewed and got a job. So it's kind of a neat story of a kid from Kansas kind of setting his own path and getting to go work for Certified Angus Beef. So in his family, he grew up on a ranch there in Kansas, and big Angus operation out there. So you'll hear all about that, and Eric will tell you all about that. But I think you'll really enjoy it. And but before we get to the podcast here, I got to thank my sponsor again, Dave Casper of Casper Enterprises. I actually ran into Dave the other day at the cafe here in town, and he was telling me about a couple new clients that he picked up in Montana and Michigan and whatnot. And he was saying that one of them runs a bunch of cows, so he's got a connection for me next time I'm in Montana to do a podcast. So I really appreciate Dave looking out for us and supporting us and everything. So, but if you need any organic or all-natural agronomy needs, you give Dave a call and he'll help you out as much as he can. You just call him and tell him that you heard about him on the Let's Talk Beef podcast, and he'll help you out as much as he can. So thanks again to Dave. If you want to talk to Dave, give Dave a call at 507-458-7659. So thanks, Dave. And so now here's the podcast of me with Eric Blythe of Certified Angus Beef in Wooster, Ohio. And do enjoy. Thanks. So we are in Wooster, Ohio, and I'm talking about, I guess I don't even know your full name.
Eric Blythe.
Eric Blythe from
Kansas.
Where in Kansas?
It'd be a little town called White City, just south of Manhattan, about 45 minutes. You know, it's a 45-minute drive to get anywhere. Your neighbor's about a mile away as the crow flies.
Yeah, sounds pretty nice. How was it growing up there?
Well, everybody in school was either related to you or knew your entire family history. So
yeah, I know that feeling.
It was good growing up out there. So,
yeah,
but it's different here in Ohio.
Mm-hmm. So you grew up on a cattle ranch out in Kansas?
I did. So we would have about 500, 600 head of cattle in Kansas. We would go through and register about 150 cows.
Okay.
And then we'd also have a couple hundred replacement heifers as well.
Okay.
So we've been in agriculture. I'm going to be a fifth generation family member at the ranch. My brother right now is at home handling it all, and it's moving to him next.
We'll come back to you a little bit later. But right now we're at Certified Angus Beef in Wooster, Ohio. So what do you do? So you obviously work here now. So what do you do for Certified Angus Beef?
So I am in the packing plant department. So just a quick thing of what I do. So to start with, I hold ranch days. So when groups come in, so such as chefs or meat salesmen, you know, they want to talk about the sales oppositions or hot topics in the industry. So I kind of talk through hormones or antibiotics, grass-fed or grain-fed, and any other questions that they would have at the live cattle part of the business. But then I would also, in the packing division, go through and talk about or work with label usage. So our sticker that we would put on product. So what product is it being put on? What stickers we have? How many stickers we have? And all of that as well.
Mm-hmm. So let's start at the beginning. What is Certified Angus Beef, and how did it start? Kind of what's the history of this place?
Absolutely. So Certified Angus Beef. So back in the 70s, when we were started in 1978, in the 70s, a rancher by the name of Harold Etling went to a steakhouse, and he ordered a steak because it was called Angus.
Mm-hmm.
and he was not impressed.
Yep.
So after a couple bites, it got dry. It wasn't very tender, and he was just not impressed.
Mm-hmm.
So he wrote a letter to a bunch of Angus producers and everything, and we worked together, and they created Certified Angus Beef, the brand. It was run and started by Mick Colvin, and it was started in 1978. In October, we would have sold our first pound of beef. And right now, we have sold over 1 billion pounds in the past year.
Wow. How many producers were part of that beginning group, or how did that all, how many did he have there?
So Certified Angus Beef would be owned by the American Angus Association.
Oh, it is? Okay.
And within that, all the members, so 25,000 plus members would make up the American Angus Association.
Mm-hmm.
So, we work for producers, work for cattle ranchers, and, we're owned and operated by cattle ranchers as well.
Mm-hmm. So it started in 78, and how has it progressed from 78 to now? Or how does it, what's the linear aspect of it?
Yep. So, like I said, the first pound sold, it would have been at Renzoli's IGA, and it would have been 1 pound. One lady bought it, and it was a big deal. We took pictures. We have the picture posted somewhere in the office.
Mm-hmm.
But from there, we have we call it licensing, so being able to sell our product. And we have many different food distributors that are able to sell our product, and we license many restaurants and everything as well that are able to buy our product and use our logo. So that'd be another thing. We don't actually sell or own any product, any beef. The only thing we own would be our logo, and we have the trademark. And then we'd have about 4 or 5 different vehicles as well as the office. And those vehicles, we use for product development, business development, sales, educating different people about the product and our brand as well.
Okay. You don't own anything, but you're selling a product. So you guys came up with a set of standards? Is that kind of how it goes with the beef, that side? So what are the standards, or how did they develop, and how have they changed at all, if they have?
Of course. So Dr. Van Stavern, back in the day, back in the 70s, they came up with 10 standards to make up our brand. And so within all of those, the end goal is to always promote Angus beef.
Mm-hmm.
So within that, we have created a premium brand that once an animal is harvested and it gets to the grade stand, a USDA grader would stamp the carcass as Certified Angus Beef.
Mm-hmm.
Up until that point, it can be black-hided, but it still has to meet all 10 of our specifications. But after that, it is able to meet Certified Angus Beef. So, and those standards, only one has really changed over the years, and that would be our carcass weight, and it was increased 50 pounds. So as the years go, cattle are being more efficient. They're growing larger. They're growing faster. So we increased our carcass weight from 1,000 pounds to 1,050.
Can you just give me a quick list of what those 10 requirements are? Just, you don't have to go into huge detail, but just what are they?
I can give it a shot if I can get them off my head. Yep. So I guess to start with, before the specifications, we got to think about how we know the animal can be Angus. So what goes into it? So first thing, it needs to be black-hided.
Okay.
When we talk about black-hided, it used to be 51% black-hided. Nowadays, we say predominantly black-hided. So it can't have any white or any other colors above the flank, so the belly region, and then in front of the shoulder.
Okay.
So the main part of the animal has to be black. Then to get into the specifications, so there's 10 specifications. To start with, the animal's carcass weight needs to be 1,050 or less. Then sorry, I'm trying to remember.
Nope.
Then we got to talk about
I put you on the spot pretty good
the
here.
marbling and maturity.
Okay.
So the first thing would be maturity. It needs to be a maturity, which is 30 months or less. Then we talk about marbling, and so the marbling would be the little specks of fat within the muscle, and that would be what gives the meat the juiciness. We talk about the medium and fine marbling texture. So if we would have large marbling within the muscle, you would get a fatty taste. You wouldn't be able to enjoy the leanness, whereas if it was too small of marbling, it kind of melts away. You don't get to enjoy the juiciness of the meat as well. Then we would have a 10 to 16 inch square ribeye. So when we think of that, that is mostly due to consistency within the product. So when we think about ribeye, if the carcass or if the ribeye is too small or too big, we can't be very consistent within a box. So we don't want one restaurant to order a box of meat and have a 9-inch ribeye in one and then a 17-inch ribeye in the other. We want a nice uniform product so that way all the restaurant and consumers can be happy. We'd also have 1 inch less or fat thickness around the ribeye.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's kind of just a appearance thing as well as it goes into the carcass weight and quality. Next, we would go through superior muscling. And so when we talk about what cattle it weeds out, that would kind of be, the dairy type. So those type of cattle we don't want in our brand. One, they're not always predominantly black-hided, but they're also a leaner looking animal, so some would still have marbling, but they just don't have the type of muscling that we liked in our Angus breed of cattle.
Mm-hmm.
We'd also say free of capillary rupture, and that would be more of a quality thing, so we kind of give a metallic taste with that. Next would be dark cutter, and that would be along the same lines, kind of a dark, a metallic taste as well. And then lastly would be to kind of weed out Mexican type cattle, so less than 2-inch neck hump. So when we think about Mexican cattle or cattle within rodeos, most of those would have a large neck hump.
Mm-hmm.
And so that would be another reason we would not want them, because most of those cattle would be lean,
Okay.
not so much high quality.
Yep. So you take cattle in and they get stamped by the USDA as CAB certified. Can you take your animals into any just local butcher and get them, does it have to be USD certified, or how does one get their cattle into a certified Angus beef program?
That is a good question. So Certified Angus Beef has licensed several packing plants that are able to use our brand. They are particularly large packing plants, so I think one of the smallest would do about 100 head a day. So the best way to figure out if they are licensed or not is to call ahead and figure out.
Mm-hmm.
But if you were to go ahead and go to any packing plant, they would have a USDA inspector. That'd be through the government, but they would not always have a USDA grader.
Okay.
So to be able to be stamped Certified Angus Beef, they would have to be a licensed packing plant as well as a USDA grader.
Okay. You said that the American Angus Association owns CAB? Is that how that goes?
Yes.
So is every Angus breeder a CAB part of the Certified Angus Beef program?
So an Angus breeder would not be, call it a certified herd.
Okay, certified herd.
Yep. So again, no cattle can be certified live. So all cattle would have to go through a packing plant, a licensed packing plant,
Mm-hmm.
and they will not be certified until they get to the grade stand,
Okay.
until the USDA grader checks them and stamps them.
Okay.
So we would not have any live cattle that are certified. This is due to, we think about our specs. We can't look at any spec on a live animal.
Okay.
So it wouldn't be beneficial to certify a herd if we don't know exactly what that herd can do.
Okay. So I was just looking at a map right over here and had Certified Angus Beef pictures all across the country of different places that are CAB certified, I guess, or what is that?
Was that over here?
Yeah.
That's part of our Brand the Barn
Okay.
campaign.
Okay. So let's talk about, what is Brand the Barn? What's that?
So this last year we celebrated our 40th anniversary for the brand. So, we tried to come up with a good way to celebrate, and, somebody just threw out the idea to, why don't we just paint our logo on barns?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that idea turned into a really good idea.
Yeah.
And it turned into hiring a painter and painting 40 barns across the U.S. So in my state of Kansas, we painted 5 barns, and my family was lucky enough to be selected to paint a barn.
Okay.
So within, each celebration or each painting, we kind of had our own little celebration. So we had a little come together with friends and family, neighbors, and it kind of just gave a way for CAB to give back to the community and have fun as well.
Okay. Was that something that people had to apply for, or how do you pick where the paintings go?
Yep. So that would have been something that you had to apply for or get nominated for.
Okay.
So my family, my mom actually was very excited about nominating our barn.
Mm-hmm.
She actually didn't just nominate one barn. She nominated 2 or 3 different barns, and
Yeah.
it ended up being the barn that she was most happy with.
Okay.
So, yep, it's a nomination process, and that would be on our website, certifiedangusbeef.com.
Okay. Are you still doing that promotion, or is that an ongoing thing, or are you just kind of a one-time thing?
So we are not doing that specific promotion anymore.
Okay.
The barns that were not selected to be painted, so we would still have a list of those, and we still have those in our book just in case we start doing it again.
Mm-hmm.
We are not doing it. We are open to thinking about doing it again. We just had a meeting recently, and we're thinking about starting. So again, you can apply on our website, and we'll hold on to your guys' information and everything for if we start doing it again.
Okay. The Angus Association is in St. Joseph, Missouri, correct?
Yep.
And how did you guys end up in Wooster, Ohio?
I think that's the biggest question that everybody asks. When we think about where cattle are,
Yep.
that'd be the Midwest.
Yep. Right outside of Cleveland. That's where it's at.
Right outside of Cleveland. It'd be an hour south of Cleveland. There's densely populated and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So the actual reason behind it was that the guy that started Certified Angus Beef, the first president we had, Mick Colvin, he actually lived in a little town just north of here, West Salem. And he started it in his room at his house.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of grew to a couple of employees, and then it moved to his garage. Well, then it kind of outgrew that, and now we have our own building here in Wooster, Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
So now we have about 150 employees, ranging from about 30 to 40 that work remotely from all across the U.S. and everybody else in-house. But, we travel all the time. But another way to look at it, too, is, most of the cattle are raised in the Midwest.
Mm-hmm.
Where are most of the people? They would be out here to the east and way west.
Mm-hmm.
Well, most of the consumers that's who we're going to.
Yep.
That's who we're teaching. So it kind of makes sense to be closer to the people.
Okay.
As well. And they're the ones with the questions. We want to make it easy for them to contact us.
Okay. So he starts it in his garage.
He did.
And how does it develop into this campus that we're on right now?
Well, it takes quite a bit to run a business. So when we think about the marketing, the communications, everything that goes into running a business, we've just expanded.
Mm-hmm.
Even our building right now with 150 people, we're almost ready to bust at the seams.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a couple people from our HR department walking around trying to find an office the other day, and there's not many around.
Yeah.
It's a hot commodity here.
Yeah.
So, we've grown. I mean, just in my department packing, 2 years ago, we had 1 member of our packing department. We've grown to now 3. We are one of the smallest departments in Certified Angus Beef. We would have our own photographers, our own marketing, our own, I'm going to call them sales development.
Mm-hmm.
So, we have completely diversified our portfolio and what we can do and everything.
Okay.
So that's how we've grown.
Okay. So what building is this that we're in right now?
So we are currently in our office, the corporate office.
The corporate office.
Yep. And so we would have our own warehouse as well. So when we think about, we call it point of sale merchandise.
Mm-hmm.
So we call them the steak picks, retail dividers. So the dividers that are in a meat case at a store. Everything that we would use for business development or education is all stored there, as well as we call it our black hide collection. So shirts, hats, binders, anything that is for sale is stored there as well, and we ship directly.
Mm-hmm.
We would also have our own culinary center, and that's a very cool part. It actually was a restaurant back in the day.
Oh, really?
And we converted it into our own, we call it education center.
Yep.
Culinary
Okay.
education center. So we bring chefs, meat salesmen, all of those people in, and we talk to them about meat.
Yeah.
We get them to a ranch. We have our own meat lab. We're able to go in, show them how to cut different steaks, have different items. We can cut a brisket out if they want to look at that, a short rib. We take a carcass from being one big piece and we cut it into all of its little pieces. Cut big pieces into small pieces for them.
Yeah.
We also let them cook their own things. We have an entire kitchen, as well as a state-of-the-art, I'm going to call it a prep kitchen that they can work with and create their own spices, cooking techniques, and everything as well. And it would have its own dining room and everything for them to eat, because we would also have 6 or 7 different chefs on staff as well to go through and help staff that, as well as traveling chefs as well.
Man, who's ever in charge of that, I'm sure, has a pretty sweet gig.
Oh, yeah, he does. We're all very jealous.
Yeah, and I'm sure you guys don't go very hungry here very often.
No, we're pretty spoiled. We like that quite a bit.
Yeah. So if you're bursting at the seam, is there expansion coming, or what's going on there?
You know, we've talked quite a bit about that. There's stuff in the works. Unfortunately, I don't think I'm high enough to know. We've talked about rearranging our offices, moving people out, maybe people being remote, and everything. So I would say yes. Do I know what it is? Not exactly.
No, not a clue. What's the future hold? What are you shooting for now?
What is the goal? Well, we hit 1 billion pounds a couple years ago, and we hit that. That was a 5-year goal, and we hit that way ahead of what we expected.
Mm-hmm.
So we had a celebration. We called it the billion pound bash, and after that, we tried to figure out what we're going to do next.
Yep.
Well, we ended up coming out with a goal that we're going to hit over 1 billion pounds, and be in a couple years. And maybe we'll have a celebration, maybe we won't.
Yeah.
We're going to hit it regardless. But it might not be as big as a 1 billion pound bash. But with our company growing, I have no doubt that we're going to hit it pretty soon.
Mm-hmm. Are you seeing increases of people producing Angus beef? Is that kind of how is the breed growing in that aspect of more people getting into it?
So I have not seen an increase of cattle being raised. We have seen an increase in the quality grade.
Mm-hmm.
So cattle that are being able to be stamped certified Angus beef. Several years ago, we had a grade of, maybe 14-15% that were able to go into certified Angus beef. Nowadays, we're 33%
Wow.
cattle are now hitting certified Angus beef.
Wow.
They do have to be black-hided, so
Yep.
that'd be another thing, but 33% of black-hided animals are hitting certified Angus beef. We actually, a couple months ago, hit our highest month we've ever had. And that was 40% acceptance.
Wow. That's cool. I want to know a little bit more about you now. How did you end up here? What's your journey to end up here in Worcester, Ohio?
My journey for Worcester. Well, I grew up agriculture, knew that's kind of what I wanted to do, raising 500 head of cattle. It's not an easy thing. I would have 4 siblings, and we all grew up doing the same thing.
Where are you in the line?
So I'm actually the youngest.
You're the youngest. You're the baby.
I have an identical twin.
Oh, wow.
Yep, and he's back home, but he also works off the farm.
Okay.
So, our farm, it's big enough to support one family. Another family's kind of hard.
Yep.
My older brother that is at home full time, he has a side business as well. He actually has his own hunting business. So
Okay.
Pheasant hunts. He raises his own birds. This year he's looking at raising about 2,100 birds.
Oh, wow.
And then guide brings people in and hunts as well. So that's how he was able to go home.
Yep.
But then after the ranch, I went to Kansas State University and got my bachelor's degree in animal science.
Is that why you're wearing a purple shirt today?
I kind of wear purple every Monday. So you caught me on a good day.
Oh, there you go.
Yep, there's a couple other people from Kansas State that are here at Certified Angus Beef. Just a little
A
thing.
little fraternity
John
in here.
Sticka, the president, is actually from Kansas State as well.
Okay.
So him and I kind of reminisce on the old times as well.
Yeah.
Yep. So I graduated from Kansas State, but while I was there, I worked at a 60,000 head feed yard out in Idaho, and I also worked on about 1,200 head commercial ranch in Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
And so then kind of how I ended up here, it's kind of a funny story. I just shot an email, just a blank email, hoping that somebody would read it here at Certified Angus Beef, and lo and behold, somebody read it. And next couple of days, got an interview. They asked me when I wanted to move and if I'd start, and I told them I'd start the day after graduation. Well, that kind of started.
Yeah.
I started 3 days after graduation, so kind of lived up to that.
So what did the email say?
What did it say? Oh,
Do you have a
man.
copy of it, like
Do I
posted,
have it? Is that,
framed in your
I
office?
think people want to read that. I don't think so. No, I don't know. I don't remember exactly what it said. That was a little bit ago.
Yeah. So how long you been here?
I've been here just over a year.
Just over a year.
Yep.
Oh,
So I would have started back in May.
okay. Is there potential? I mean, do you want to go back to Kansas maybe potentially and go back and ranch, or is it, I don't want to say your foot's out the door here. I'm sure it's not, but I mean, it's got to be in your mind that to want to go back at some point maybe.
It's always in the back of my mind. And I was actually home last week, and Mom and Dad, they always worry what their little boy's doing and everything, and they're very curious. So we had the conversation of what it would look like and everything, and I don't feel like I have to be home. Like you said, it's always in the back of my mind. The cool thing is, I'm a part owner of our family's ranch.
Okay.
All my siblings were all part owners, so we're never gonna leave.
Yep.
One thing that I discussed with my family's ranch is, sponsoring to buy several head, or possibly buying more land for us or renting more land through me.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if moving back is where I'm best at, where I'm best served, how I'm best utilized.
Yep.
But I definitely know I want to give back to my family's ranch at some point.
Yep.
But at what capacity, I'm not sure.
Okay. Well, I don't really have much else. Anything else you want to say about Certified Angus Beef, or any last ending comments?
I can't think of any off the top of my head.
No. Well, I just want to say thanks so much. I know this was very short notice request to come in and talk to you guys, but I really appreciate you guys shuffling around your schedules to fit me in, and it was great talking with you.
Absolutely. I'm glad you guys were able to make it.
Yeah, and hopefully to do it again some other day.
Sounds good.
All right. Thank you. Have a good one.
And that'll do it for this episode there, folks. Just want to say thank you so much to everybody that took the time out of their day to listen to this podcast. And I just want to say I'd really appreciate it if you would run over to iTunes and give me a rating over there. It really helps me out a whole bunch. And if you get a chance, like and share on Facebook and Instagram as much as you can. So thanks again. Have a good day.